Overwatch 2 is coming. The beta is finally scheduled. Everyone who wants to and has already signed up will hopefully get to play, and I'm looking super forward to it. But not only is this going to be a great time for playing, but it's going to be a great time for you and I to get some new SRs, some new highs, and maybe even, blow up my channel a little bit. So before the beta and before the release, let's talk about a couple of things that you can start doing to prepare to make sure you are ready to get into ranked, kick some butt, and hit that new high in SR come the new game. So one of the biggest changes from Overwatch 1 to Overwatch 2 is going to be the fact that we're only going to have one tank to play around, meaning that everyone's going to have to main tank and everyone's going to have to understand something about space management. Basically, there's three types of space management, or ways to manage your space. Written on the right, we have taking, giving, and holding. Now, this is going to be a very quick crash course on this subject. In the future, I might make a whole video about what all three of these means. But for now, let's just understand that taking space is going from, say, this corner here, pushing up and making it to this cart right here, right? If you are the attacking team, right? Giving space would be, say, the defending team playing back here and allowing the attacking team to go from here to here, right? Let them make that transition. Let them force the push, right? And then there's something like holding space, where we'll have the attacking team on this corner and the defending team holding this corner, fighting for that space, saying, I'm not going to allow you guys to just push on through. We're going to stop you right here, right now. Now, it's very important to understand when to take, when to give, and when to hold. One of the biggest misconceptions is that tanks are only supposed to take space. That is their entire role, when in general, it's not just about taking, it's just a singular aspect. A lot of lower ranked players might, make fun of tanks for giving space, right? Oh, we're just giving them free cart progress. Well, a lot of the times, the space that they are giving is kind of useless space. If you're the defending team, right? Let's move on over here to a different angle to this point over here. If you're the defending team, there is realistically no reason for you guys to be holding the arches right here, right? As a defending team, you want to be playing further back by this corner over here. The reason is we're forcing the attacking team to make this long rotation this way or long rotation this way. And while they do that, they're at their weakest state, right? They're not stabilized to a corner. They're not anchored to anything natural, and they're very vulnerable to things like ultimates or just poke damage, right? They're going to have to use resources like their shield or speed boost just to get across this space, right? And if they push up to your corner, you can hold the space, you have more resources, and then you're going to kick their butts, right? So it's not always just about taking space, especially on the defense. But even on the defense, you might want to be taking space sometimes. Even on the offense, you're going to have to give space at some point. You can't always be pushing forward. That's a very common misconception you're going to see in a lot of Overwatch games. So again, this is a very basic crash course. I'm going to go over this a lot more in future videos, so look out for those, and let's move on. Another big change to Overwatch 2 is that all healers are going to have a passive heal after a couple seconds of not getting hit. This is very similar to the Mercy passive right now, where basically if she doesn't get touched, then she starts to regen her HP. This is going to be very important. One of the biggest punishable things that I see supports doing is they'll fight too much in the action, and they won't play a little bit further back, right? They'll play where their tanks are and not necessarily where they should be. So, for example, if your tanks are up here playing this corner, as an Ana, you do not want to be standing right here with them. Things like fire strikes that are meant to hit your Rhine also hit you. Things like spam damage onto the shield might hit you instead, and you can end up dying, right? This is a very, very bad thing, and in Overwatch 2, it's going to be punished even more heavily because you're not going to be able to regen your HP. So, a good rule of thumb, just an easy rule of thumb, is to play one corner back from your tanks. Now, this isn't always applicable. Sometimes you're playing with an Orisa, you want to be a little closer to the shield, but especially with Reinhardts, especially with monkeys, do not stand on top of them. You're going to take damage that's meant for your main tank. Along with that, we have to talk about anchoring yourself to a corner. Now, I'm going to have an entire video talking about corner-to-corner combat and how to be using corners correctly. But basically, the whole idea is if there's a Kree over here shooting at you and you're about to die, you can always just step to the side. And now he no longer has LOS on you. You are safe, right? That Kree over here cannot hurt you anymore. Whereas if a Kree is over here, and of course, you still need to be doing your healing, and your Reinhardt standing here, you can what's called isolate the angle. Basically, stand in a position like this, where you can still heal your Reinhardt or whatever person is up there, while dodging the shots from this Kree. You're basically taking the two ideas and melding them together, right? Not only can I dodge your shots like this, but I can still do the support duties and keep line of sight of my teammates, right? This is a very, very important key. You can do this with pretty much any map and any cover, where if you're being shot over here but you need a support over here, there's no reason you should be standing out in the open. You should be anchoring yourself to this corner and not even exposing yourself to this angle, just healing your teammates like so. And the last role-specific change that we're going to see is for the DPS. Now, the DPS have I think a 10% speed boost to all of their movement compared to every other hero. This is going to be something minute, but something you definitely can feel, especially when chasing down targets. Now, the biggest thing to understand is because Overwatch only has one tank, it's probably the biggest defining difference between Overwatch 1 and Overwatch 2, over 1. Is that DPS are going to become extremely, extremely important to the flow of the fight. I would definitely say in Overwatch 1, main tanks probably have the most influence on the game, where in Overwatch 2, it might be leaning a little bit more towards DPS. So how do you gain influence on the actual fight? How do you make sure that what you do matters and how to win? Well, one of the basics to playing DPS is off-angling and flanking. So basically what an off-angle is when your main tank or just the rest of your team are pushing from one direction and you are taking an angle from another. What that's going to do for the enemy team is force them to look in multiple directions, right? The larger this angle right here, let's say this is, it would be generous, 45-degree angle. I think it's actually a little bit more. The larger that angle, the more powerful that that you are going to be, because either you on this angle over here are going to get a lot of value because they're all fighting the front line over here and you're just taking free shots into their Rhine, into their Ana, into whoever isn't paying attention to you, or the defending team has to look at you, the single DPS, and then they're getting rolled by the 5 people standing next to them because, you know, the Rhine can't hold the shield against both, or at least both very easily. Now, what happens is sometimes your off angle becomes weaker, right? Say that Reinhardt doesn't want to stand on this corner and get shot from both angles, so he's going to start backing up in this direction. He gets all the way back here, and now your off angle is significantly weaker, pretty much not an off angle anymore, because now he only has to fight from 2 positions, here and here. And look how small this angle is. It might as well not exist. That's where as you as a DPS have to understand, okay, this position no longer strong. Let's start swinging out this way or this way to find a better position. Now, here's a big thing. It's all about risk and reward. A lot of times we tend to think about the rewards of going on really big off angles like this, and now it's like, oh my god, look at this off angle, I'm completely hitting them from the side, or maybe you get all the way up here somehow, right? And now you have a giant flank on them, right? Now look at this angle all the way over here. That is way too much for them to handle. The problem with a position like here and here is it's dangerous. The further away you are from your team, the easier it is for you to be isolated, right? So what you're trying to do is apply pressure to the enemy team by sort of sandwiching them from multiple sides. But if one, your teammate isn't coordinated with you, or you're not coordinated with your teammates, and you go first, then what's going to happen is it's not going to be you shooting them from an angle and them having to fight off multiple sides. It is them only fighting you. And it has gone from, you know, an off angle where they have to focus on you or the 5 people. Now it's just, oh, look at this dumb like McCree over here. Let's kill him, right? That's how you get isolated. That's how you get killed. So a couple of tips to make sure that your off angles are actually good, actually well supported is one, timing. Make sure you are making a play, getting into position and being there during the engagement. When your Rhine goes in, you need to be here shooting. That's when you need to open up. That's when you need to hit the first Helix rocket. If you hit the Helix rocket first, then your Rhine pushes in, you guys are out of sync and off time, and that could really, really hurt you guys in the long run. Secondly, make sure you have a place to retreat to. This position is fine if you can get back, right? Here, your retreat would be this way. But if they're in a position where they can cut you off over here and not allow you to get back to your teammates, you're going to end up getting isolated once again. So off angles have a lot of risk, flanks have a lot of risk if you don't have a way out. So if you're a character like Tracer, make sure you have your recall up if you're going for something super crazy off angle flank. If you're a Kree or a soldier, make sure you can fall back, either back to your teammates in a safe location or back to a position where maybe there's a mini or you're in LOS of your Ana and you can get healed up in a safe location without getting isolated. And finally, the last thing we're going to talk about is fundamentals of Overwatch. Things that you should be practicing no matter what your role is, no matter what heroes you play. I like to say the three major things to pay attention to are your mechanics. That can be things like your aiming as far as tracking or flicking. That could be specific hero things like how well you can monkey juggle or tracer blink. All those different things are counted. Things like Hanzo, how well you can predict the arc and people's movements. All mechanics. Then there's decision making. Decision making can be resource management, how well you use your cooldowns, how well you use your shield, how well you position yourself. Those are all decision making things. And finally, APM, actions per minute. That's how well, at least in Overwatch terms, how well you can take in information and act upon it, right? The speed at which you can convert things that you see into decisions are being made, right? The faster that is, the better you're going to be, and the more information you can take in, the better decisions you will make. All three of these things tie together very nicely, and no matter what, you should always be working on them. Now, mechanics, you can find a lot of different codes or like aim trainers like AimLab, which is completely free, and you can practice a bunch of different things. APM's a little bit trickier to work with. This is going to come with some practice. This is going to come with games that you play, but more than anything, decision making is something you should be focusing on and something I like to focus on myself. I have a whole YouTube talking about a lot of different interesting stuff, different VOD reviews of people, so you should definitely check those out as well. And we also are on Twitch all the time looking at not just other people's games, but your games as well. You can join the Discord and drop your own code in the correct channel and follow all the rules. You'll get a free VOD review from me, a tier 2 coach. Now, decision making can be coming from a coach, can come from my YouTube channel. Really appreciate it if you did, but it can also come from your own VOD reviews. Make sure to look back at your own games and figure out what you're doing wrong. It's the best way I find for people to improve at Overwatch, at least for self-reviews, is to figure out what went wrong. Look at maybe every time you die, ask yourself, was I out of position? Did I use my cooldowns wrong? What was the problem here? Once you can isolate your issues, pick one or two to focus on at a time and just try simple solutions. Things like, I'm going to play closer to a corner. I'm going to do better ult tracking. I'm going to make sure I save my recall for when I actually need it. Right? Small things like that will go a long way. Don't try to get too much in the weeds. Don't try to think of too high level concepts. Keep it simple, keep it constructive, and make sure you can improve these things one little problem at a time. And that's about it. Hopefully when the Overwatch 2 beta drops, you guys are going to be kicking some ass. You guys are going to be preparing for the game before it comes out. And when Overwatch 2 finally drops, you guys are going to get those new shiny SRs, the brand new emblems, maybe top 500, and you can brag to the rest of everyone that you are finally good at video games. Is that much of an achievement? Not really, but hopefully it makes you happy, and hopefully I helped in some way. So make sure to drop a like and a subscription, and also give me your money on Twitch. That's all I gotta say. Hopefully you guys enjoy, and peace out.
About you and how you've been treating me, and I thought
The house creaks as the sun hits my blind eyes. I can feel the cold outside. So tell me what you see.